Welcome back, you guys. Hi, Phrasiacs, brand new Phrasiacs, people who have no clue what a Phrasiac is. Welcome to the Sarah Fraser Show, daily pop culture podcast. I'm Sarah. Phrasiacs is what we call ourselves, that we all love to listen to podcasts and we all love to dish a little, fun escapism and what's going on in the world when it comes to pop culture news. So today I want to cover three things: a personal update and check-in, which it has been a very long time since I've given that to you guys. Two, Justin Baldoni did his first podcast episode since all these allegations have come out and since the lawsuits have happened. So I will tell you about that podcast episode, if you should even bother to listen, and where you can listen. And then also, I loved this story. It's been going viral on TikTok, and it's essentially the three careers that men have where they're least likely to cheat on you, which don't we all need? I mean, why not, right? I enjoy that kind of a story. So for those of you who have been listening to me for a very long time, Kane Show days, Sarah Tide Mel, Fox 5 DC, I usually weekly check in with you all about what's going on. My baby journey, my marriage, KJ, what's happening with him. So I thought I'd just give you an update on everything. And you have to let me know your feedback. Really, when Sister Wives came back, season 19, all fall, it's on mid-season break. It's going to come back in March, and then we'll probably have it through April, and then it will wrap April, early May. I really went 24/7 Sister Wives coverage. People are obsessed with the show, cult following. Many of you are here for it. If you're not, I apologize. In a month, I'll get back to some other programming, but I'm also obsessed with the show. I love it. I've been covering it for years, and it's sort of become something that I'm known for. So on Tuesdays, I usually talk my family and my life. A couple of things. I think by now, a lot of you have seen on my social media. You heard me talk about it yesterday. I lost my favorite gunkle, George, 3 weeks ago, and it's been really, really stressful. I said to you guys yesterday, have you ever lost somebody you didn't even realize how deep the grief was? Like maybe you took them for granted, or you didn't realize how they touched every aspect of your life. And that was George for me. Like, and I even get emotional talking and thinking about him. But like, I look around my apartment, he came out here 2 years ago, he decorated it. So I see George in every picture that he hung. And, Dan and I, one of the things I was going to update you guys, because I need all your advice, is I think we're getting ready to buy a home, which is nuts, like nuts. It's so quick, the escrow and the close. It's not even 30 days. So I feel like I don't even have time to come to you guys and ask advice, but I will right after I cry about George. So it's hard for me to even think about leaving my apartment because he was here. He was like in so many different aspects of it. He hung the artwork. He loved coming out here and spending time with us. He was so into KJ, KJ's speech therapy, and seeing how KJ has evolved and how he would joke, like, at first you couldn't understand anything KJ said, and now he would say, "Hi, George." And so, I'm really missing him, and it's been very stressful the past 3 weeks. That's impacted so many things in my life because obviously this month we were getting ready to do our egg donor transfer, our egg journey, but that's on hold for right now. I want to go back to Connecticut where George primarily lived. They're going to do a celebration of life for George 1st of March. I want to be there. I think that's really important. His business was so important to him and everyone that worked with him and for him. So I really want to honor him, and I feel like it's going to be very hard to say goodbye. Oh my God. I cry so much too on this podcast when I talk about my personal life, but I really want to do that. So I don't have a baby update for you yet, but it's coming. And so that's on hold. And then the other thing, like I hope George's life, there's going to be many lessons I'm sure I'll be sharing on my podcast about George. And I was actually hoping that George would come on the podcast because he had become like a complete he's like he'd become completely into like the leather world and was explore he was like, you guys, he was 73. I'd be like, oh my God, he'd be out having all this hot sex. I'd be like, George, what are you doing? He was living his best life because he and my uncle were married for like almost 40 years. So he was dating again, he was finding himself, and he was now into this like leather world where he was going to leather events and exploring wearing. Anyway, I mean, whatever. We celebrate all kinks on this show. I've had a woman that made love to a chandelier on this show. So that's why I was like, George, you have to come on. And that was like always our plan is he was going to come on and talk about this. Sorry, Schman like called me midway through. I had to chat with him. But so anyhow, okay, the baby thing's on hold while we honor George, missing George terribly. And now I guess it never rains, but it pours. We're looking to buy a house. But on top of that, I was saying I want George's life to be like a fun lesson for so many things because they were amazing and gave me so much. But now I'm dealing with his will and I just want to tell you guys like as much as you can, and I know nobody thinks they're going to die. Nobody thinks it's going to happen to them. And George died of a massive heart attack in like 5 minutes. And if you do anything, I know it sounds like an endorsement, but I have two companies that are advertising with me. And I want George's memory to be don't leave your family with just holding the bag. That there's issues with the will, there's no money, there's all kinds of problems. So if I can give you any advice, I have two companies that are advertising. I try to pick advertisers specifically to help you guys that I really love. And one, do yourself a favor and get a life insurance policy. If you have nieces and nephews that you're planning for them to be the executors of your will, something that helps them when you suddenly pass, if that were to happen to you, God forbid. Fabric. Fabric is advertising with the podcast. Please go there. Meetfabric.com/TSFS. They actually help thousands. They really specialize in parents. If you're a parent, please, for the love of God, get a life insurance policy. Button up your will. It's a pain. It's $1,500 to have somebody do your will. It's like 2 or 3,000 if you want to set up a trust, but it's the best thing you can do because you don't want to leave people in a situation like mine where it's like George supported so many people and all of a sudden there's no money, there's no way to help. So please go to meetfabric.com/TSFS. Do it for George. All the fun gay stories they had over the years on the pod and on the radio. And then Acorns. I love acorns.com/TSFS. I specifically partnered. It was really weird because Dan and I had just done our will and guardianship for our son and everything this fall. And I was talking to the company that sells my ads. And I was like, God, do you have anything with life insurance? Because I believe in life insurance so much. It's what saved my family when my dad died of cancer when I was in middle school. My mom, she never had the luxury, the resources to go to college. She was a stay-at-home mom. She worked her butt off. She took care of a woman that lived with us who had Alzheimer's. That's how she supported us. And when my dad died, if it wasn't for the life insurance policy that he had, I don't know what she would have done. I mean, that life insurance policy put us through college. It gave us, safe cars to drive. I mean, it literally gave us everything. It gave us a life and a way to live. And, my dad was one of those people that had money saved everywhere. And I know what that's like, and I know what it's like to deal with a loss, and there is no money. And it's even harder because if you guys have ever dealt with this to be an executor of someone's will, the moment they die, people basically, the hospital, wherever, are like, we're so sorry for your loss. But basically, you have 72 hours to figure out what you're going to do with their body. They need them out of the hospital because the hospital needs room. And from that moment, you're basically stepping in as that person's decision maker. And if there isn't the resources there, it's incredibly challenging and mixed with grief. So I love Acorns. Acorns, you can literally save $3 a day, $2 a day, 50 cents. Acorns.com/TSFS. The app is actually free. And you don't have to be a whiz, you don't have to be a crypto master. Just begin the savings. So because we're all headed that way. So when it happens, just be prepared and like leave your family that gift, leave your nieces and nephews, leave your kids that gift, even if it's $60,000. I mean, that you don't realize like how much it costs to put on a funeral, have people cremated. I mean, it's buying death certificates. It's crazy. So I hope George's life can be a memory for that for sure. Lighter notes. Hello. Let's move on to lighter things. We love you, Georgie. Miss you. Know you're with me every step of the way. So, okay. Other notes. Um, I think we're buying a house. Don't know for sure. Never done this. Anybody have any tips? We're going to inspection this week. I believe the inspection is either our in or our out. We're in escrow. Like, hello. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm panicked. Have you ever done this? Any advice? Any things that I should ask for the inspection? Please, the inspection's tomorrow. I need your advice. Like, hit me in the DMs. Anything like you can advise. I This whole process is a freaking whirlwind. It was a situation where we put this offer in on a house and five other people were putting in bids. We never thought we would get this ever, 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 ever. And then here we are. So I feel like it's meant to be. And Georgie is, I feel like, George was a person that could sell ice to Eskimos. I feel like George is probably in heaven negotiating with Jesus. Like, he'd be the only person talking to God, like working on, helping us, who is that such a generous human. So I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm scared. It's like, is this a good time to buy? It's California. Is it crazy to buy here? Should we just keep renting and then eventually move out of state or just buy a townhome because it's getting so expensive here? Especially if we want to stay on the west side of Los Angeles, which is like Santa Monica and Culver City and Beverly Hills. I mean, obviously that's like my dream. I want to live in Beverly Hills, but Mar Vista and West Adams, like all these mid-city. So I don't know. Are you guys buying right now? Are you buying a home? Is this the time? Are you doing it? Should we go all in? It's a lot of money and it's scary. So I want your advice. All right, let's talk about Justin Baldoni because again, much like the obsession I have with sister wives, I have this obsession with Justin Baldoni. I do. It's something about this case because I don't know how you all feel, but I can't figure out who's telling the truth, although most people believe that Justin Baldoni is and are like, how are you even debating who's telling the truth? But anyhow, Gents Talk podcast. So the interview dropped yesterday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, this was very hyped on TikTok. The teaser clip alone had over something like 2 million views, dropped over the weekend. But they were very transparent, the guys hosting it, saying that this interview with Justin Baldoni had actually been taped in November of 2024. Okay, great. Here for it. But I really wanted to listen because was he going to give away any inklings that a lawsuit was coming from, a complaint, and then eventually a lawsuit was coming from Blake Lively, right? Against him, basically for sexual harassment and trying to sabotage her PR career. Okay. It was interesting. I took some notes. I will tell you, it's all about men, their feelings, which I think is great. I'm not judging that. I think it's awesome. I do think what's amazing about men today is they are much more open. They cry, they're more vulnerable. I see it in my own Schmano, how amazing he is. We go to therapy every single month, emotional cognitive therapy. He really shows up for it. So I'm here for it. But I will just say it was a lot of that about men and masculinity and stereotypes. And Justin Baldoni talks about how he hates toxic masculinity. He doesn't like the words toxic masculinity. He loves masculinity, but he likes it to be more, caring and thoughtful. It's very introspective. It's very about men being vulnerable, how they can open up. All that was great, but I'm just saying, like, obviously I wanted the tea. I didn't really care about Okay, sure. He's talking about his son and his 7-year-old son, and he already sees his son going to school and how the bullying that kids experience robs him of joy of just walking into school. And I'm like, I get it. I get it. And every kid, I don't know about you guys, I was bullied. I was fat. I was like a fat kid on and off, totally bullied for that. Bullied for other things throughout my school career. I was just telling my neighbor this and she was laughing hysterically, but I never knew how to give a blow job for like the first time I gave one. I actually literally thought you were supposed to blow on it. So they used to call me Blowy. They called me Blowy for an entire year. There's Bluey and then there was Blowy, which was Sarah Fraser for an entire year, like my sophomore year of high school, because the guy that I did that for basically told everyone like she doesn't know what she's doing. Well, what? Yeah, I don't. Why don't they call it a suck job? Like I don't think this was before the internet. Sorry, I didn't have a YouTube video to watch. Okay. Like, I took it literally. So my parents didn't, my mom wasn't great with sex ed, FYI. So anyhow, I think we were all bullied. Okay. I was definitely bullied on and off throughout school. Okay. So anyhow, it's a lot of that. He says that the whole idea is he wants men to be better. He wants men to do better. And he believes that men in general, right now in 2025, are constantly trying to be better for women at work. And then he goes on to talk about that he did have a terrible, terrible year. And he's realized that he hasn't healed. Now, he doesn't elaborate on this at all. Of course, now that we know what we know, we're like, oh, we get it. We know what you're talking about. I don't blame you, worst year of your life. But he basically alludes to the fact, this was kind of the most compelling part to me, that he's been going through something so traumatic over the past year, that he really realized he couldn't show up for his wife. He needed to do a lot more healing. He needed to really tell people about it. And he even talks about, to the Gents podcast guys, he didn't even want to show up that day for the interview. That's how bad things have been. But he did it because he feels like sharing his story, sharing his truth can help someone else. And he says, he doesn't, even in November of 2024, he said, I don't feel like myself. The other thing, and then he goes on, it's a lot of like men and anxiety. And I did enjoy this part of it. He was saying anxiety is just fear, is really just comes from thinking that things are going to go wrong. It's just that mindset of like anxiety is just the constant belief that the other shoe is going to drop. And he talks about rewiring his brain, that he suffers from imposter syndrome and anxiety, and that for every negative thought that pops in his head, he instantly thinks of like a positive thought and replaces that. Love it. Completely can relate. It was how I conquered my whole binge eating disorder and emotional eating disorder. Like every time that record started playing that I was fat and ugly and no one wanted me, I replayed it. And I just said, I have a wonderful body. I'm healthy. I'm cancer free. I have two legs. Like my body has carried my beautiful son. Like there's so many things, right? So I liked that a lot. He says he suffers from imposter syndrome. Okay. And he says he's constantly studying people that don't. I mean, it's true. We all, right? And I think all of us at certain times in our career have imposter syndrome. I think it's very normal. So it was good. It was a lot of that. It certainly was not revealing whatsoever about the lawsuit in any way. I think if anything, it's revealing in who he is, which I think he's a guy. I don't know him. It's hard to really make this assumption, right? People listen to me, they get all kinds of assumptions. So, but just hearing him, he seems to me like almost like I've said this from the start, from reading these lawsuits, from seeing interviews, from hearing him, it almost seems like too he's just too kind. You know what I mean? Like and instead of, because he talks a lot about in this interview about, when people have a problem with you, it's really about them and it's really their triggers. And, he loves to kind of like open up to people and see if they can find that space. And I'm like, sometimes you just got to read the person. He doesn't seem like a person that's good at reading people. That's what I'm getting at. Do you get that sense from him? If you've watched his TED Talk, he seems like a man that spent a lot of time exploring his own vulnerability. He seems like a man that really wants to be a present father, a good father, all these things. But he does not seem to me like a person that is good at reading other people, meaning that you can do all that, but sometimes you have to protect your own peace, and you've got to have a blink about people, and sometimes you have to go with it. Doesn't mean you need to tell them that they're a bad person or they're evil or you feel like there's something dark in them or not trustworthy, but it's just like you kind of move away, and they don't need to know every detail. He seems like a man that is too willing to share all the details, try to be open and vulnerable, that we're in this amazing place of love on planet Earth. Couldn't agree more. But not everybody's going to receive your love. And like, that's fine. I'm like, the older I get, the smaller the circle. I'm like, and I love having conversations on this podcast and getting people to tune in and see what they like and make them laugh. But, like this idea, it's almost helping too many people is really the vibe I get from him. And he doesn't know how to read people. And I think he let Blake and Ryan come in and thought they'd be open and vulnerable and he talked too much, he opened up too much, and they used it against him, is my guess. Again, she may have major smoking guns, and it is over. We will see. But anyhow, the podcast is rather long. It's over 40 minutes if you want to go and listen. He's very methodical in his speech. Very, very, very talks, very in detail and depth. So, FYI, if you want to take advantage of that interview and listen, go and listen. Before I talk about the men that are most likely to cheat and the ones that are not, because I always find these stories so interesting. I look at like my girlfriends. I've cheated on boyfriends before I was married to Shmano. Sorry. Anyhow, why do people cheat? It's fascinating. Very hard to stay monogamous, don't you think? And then when you're married, there are times where you're like, why didn't I bang so many more people? What was I thinking? So anyhow, I enjoy those stories. But I did want to say, because I've been getting a lot of traction on it and I'm so excited. I have 3 podcasting courses. So maybe you're a psychologist and you're like, you know what? I can explain why people cheat. I know the exact reason. I need to have my voice heard and I need a podcast. Well, I'm doing podcast courses and it's 20% off with my code TikTok20, gobigpodcasting.com. These courses, I wish I had had when I started this podcast. Oh my God, would have saved me so much time, so much money. The decision whether to have co-hosts, to not have co-hosts, where to publish your podcast. That's so pivotal. If you get on the wrong platform when you're publishing your podcast, it can cost you money and time. Gobigpodcasting.com. The 6-figure master plan is the best. That's the course that you should buy if you're serious about podcasting. It's the holy grail. It shows you everything from A to Z, how to literally start your podcast to how to monetize, grow, best networks, and really the secrets of how to advertise and how podcasters are topping the charts through advertisement, AI use. So that's normally $900, but 20% off with the TikTok code TikTok20, gobigpodcasting.com. There's also a very reasonably priced course in the 200 range. Again, under $200 with the code TikTok20. Definitely go and do it. Now is the month with your gals. Maybe it's a Galentine's gift. Maybe it's a gift for your paramour, your lover. Give that to them if they've always thought about starting a podcast. So this was trending on TikTok. Love me some TikTok. But a divorce attorney is sharing 3 types of men least likely to cheat based on their profession. Kate Simmons of Simmons Law Group in Arizona has more than a decade of experience working on family court cases. So here's what she says. She says some types of men are less likely to cheat than others, at least according to a pair of seasoned Arizona divorce attorneys. And in a recent video, Kate reveals who these 3 types are. 3 types of men she has found that are the least likely to cheat based on her time working with high volume of clients. Number 3, accountants. She says, I think you're pretty safe with an accountant. She continues, adding, I see pretty common personality type. You should be good with no cheating with an accountant. Number 2, I was shocked about this, pharmacists. She goes on to say no cheating with pharmacy. Really? I mean, excuse me, but like, I would think, people flirt with pharmacists. Maybe not. I don't know. And I've run across some cute pharmacists out here in California. I'm like, I feel like they'd be cheating, or I'd be trying to cheat with them anyway. And number 1, the least likely profession to cheat, farmers. Well, of course, they smell like pig shit. Like, yeah. Okay, Kate reveals, where's this woman in Arizona? How many farmers you represent, Kate? If you're married to or in a relationship with a farmer, I predict no cheating will occur. Well, yeah, no kidding. Okay, have you ever hung around with a farmer? They got to take a bath for like 2 days to like, are you kidding? Oh my God, please. No. Yeah, a farmer, well, obviously, you know. What? We could have got that one on ourselves. Number 1 seems obvious. The person becomes so. Oh, wait, and she did a follow-up video because so many people wanted to know the traits that are likely of people who do cheat. She says number 1 seems obvious. The person becomes secretive, hiding their phone, hiding their calendar. Number 2, if your spouse drastically improves the way they look, their outlook on life, they're getting in shape, they have a new routine, you may want to be suspicious. Here's the top to look for, she continues, guilt transfer. When your spouse starts to accuse or present accusations to you about your behavior, that could be a guilt transfer situation where they're concerned about their own behavior and they're spitting it out like you're the problem. After 15 years of high conflict divorce litigation, we've encountered a lot of different personalities, she says, but many have the same common characteristics when it comes to failed relationships. Articulating these observations about who we see and who we don't see in our office has made for some entertaining online commentary, she claims, in her TikTok. So if you want to follow her, you can go. Her TikTok is Simmons Law. Yeah, there it is. Simon D. Simon's Law. SIMONDSLAW. There you go. So I found that to be very Simmons Law. Okay. 3 times the charm. You know how it is with my pronunciation. So okay. Love you guys. As I mentioned, a lot more pop culture coming this week. We are expecting maybe some other updates and news with the Baldoni Blake Lively case, although wouldn't be shocked. I do think that they're going to settle. Wouldn't be shocked if things do start to kind of die down. I'm going to have to start watching the Baldwins on TLC, which the Baldwins are replacing Sister Wives for now on Sunday night. So I'll be giving some hot recaps on that. If anyone cares, I don't know. Is that show going to take off or not really? We'll see. So I'm probably going to have to do a lot more about my personal life. I'll do a day-by-day update with this home buyer situation and see how it works out. Love your advice. Slip into my DMs. Bye, everybody.